Friends, I welcome you to my channel. Before listening to this story, I will ask you to like and subscribe. It is not difficult for you, but it is pleasant for me. And we're starting. My wife Marcy and I knew Jack and Veronica, never Ronnie, since college. The four of us had a strange relationship back then, but in the end, we always seemed to figure things out and get along. In fact, our relationship has survived even the fact that I dated Veronica before Jack and before I started dating Marcy. I don't quite understand why Veronica and I have never developed into a long-term relationship. I know Veronica thinks so, but I don't agree with her. While I, as a 20-year-old man with a full-blooded soul, with rivers of testosterone flowing through my veins and brain, I can't deny that I wanted her terribly. Veronica had so many good qualities, including being as hot as an exploding Roman candle, that I honestly think our relationship couldn't have survived no intercourse before the wedding. In fact, in real life, Veronica was no less attractive than the heroine of the cartoon Veronica from the old Archie comics. Besides, she was a much nicer, kinder, and egalitarian person. She has a toned, athletic body, shiny dark brown hair, and a beautiful face. However, her most noticeable feature is her charming, mesmerizing, penetrating jet black eyes. She doesn't have all her eyes black, like in horror movies, but only the iris. One day I asked about the color of her eyes, and she explained to me that over the years she had visited several ophthalmologists, and each of them came to the conclusion that the black color of the iris is not a sign of any disease or adverse condition. It's just that for some reason, she had more melanin in her iris than 99.9% of the population. Anyway, for some reason, my relationship with Veronica somehow hit a dead end, and soon after that I started dating Marcy and Veronica started dating Jack. After graduating from college, Marcy and I didn't live near Veronica and Jack, but we kept in touch. Then, when Veronica and Marcy were in the same city on business at the same time, they met and reconnected. After that, they visited us once, and we visited them. During these two visits, I was very pleased with how well the four of us got along. However, there was a small problem. Veronica looked better than ever and was very friendly with me, almost flirtatious. The last time we saw each other, Veronica pressed her whole body against me to hug me in greeting and said, "You look really good, Kevin, even better than in college." In 2013, Veronica called us at home. Marcy was at work at the time, so I talked to her. After exchanging pleasantries and a few jokes, Veronica got down to business. "Kevin, I got an award at work, a trip to Banff in June. It's a wonderful place, and if you and Marcy can spare us 5 or 6 days, Jack and I would be happy if you would join us." It sounds tempting, but when exactly will it be in June? I asked. We can coordinate this with our schedule, but apparently the best time is around June 18th. Sounds like a great idea. I'll talk to Marcy tonight and call you back, I replied. We chatted a little more and then broke up. When Marcy returned home, I told her about Veronica's call, and she immediately agreed to my plan. I'll have some business in San Francisco until the 19th, but it shouldn't be a problem. I know that I can take at least 3 days off, and on the weekend we will have an exciting and at the same time relaxing trip. I called Veronica back that evening, and we decided how we would arrange our schedules. Towards the end of the conversation, Veronica said, "I have a surprise for you two too." "Really? What is it?" That was my stupid answer. "Don't be surprised if I don't tell you, you fool," Veronica laughed and hung up. When I boarded the plane to Calgary, the nearest major airport to Banff, I checked my route. Due to the difficulties with the work schedule, but in order to spend as much time in Banff as possible, Veronica, Jack, Marcy, and I flew to Calgary separately. Veronica and I were supposed to arrive on June 19th, and Jack and Marcy were supposed to arrive on June 20th. It so happened that Veronica and I arrived at about the same time, so we were able to meet and go to Banff together to check into a small luxury hotel where we booked 2 suites. The first sign of trouble was the weather. It was raining heavily when my plane landed in Calgary an hour late. Veronica's flight was also late, but we arrived 10 minutes apart and, as agreed, met at the baggage check-in desk. Veronica's surprise was revealed instantly. She was pregnant. When we exchanged hugs and kisses on the cheek, I sincerely exclaimed, "Wow, girl, you really look great. What's your deadline?" "About 5 months," she giggled. Veronica rarely laughs, but on the other hand, she had never been pregnant before, and it was obvious that she was very happy with her condition. With the exception of her small tummy and very noticeably enlarged boobs during pregnancy, she looked as slim as ever, and she had a blush during pregnancy, which is often talked about, but rarely seen in the real world. The second surprise came when we approached the car rental counter. I booked a four-wheel drive SUV to make sure we had enough space and off-road driving options so the four of us could do whatever we wanted in Banff. The only car they had left that satisfied my needs for a large and all-wheel drive car, actually all-wheel drive, but close enough to that, was a 2006 Hummer. "Where did you even get a Hummer?" I asked. I didn't know that car rental agencies rent cars from 7 years ago. "We don't usually do this, Mr. Masterson," a very polite and apologetic young woman at the rental desk told me. "But because of the nearby area, we have a need for this. So there are 3 cars in our fleet that we rent out, maybe only a couple dozen times a year each. The mileage of the car is only 60,000 kilometers. I called other car rental agencies at the airport, but none of them found the car I was looking for. I hate Humvees for many reasons, and not the least of them is that I usually drive a hybrid that eats about 5 liters per 100 kilometers, and Humvees, about 12. However, when the rental agent said, "Our Hummer has 2 gas tanks installed in the back, and the clearance is greater than any ordinary car, and we will give it to you at a price 10% cheaper than the SUV you ordered," and Veronica reproached, "Just take it," I signed under the dotted line. In fact, the high seat and visibility of the Hummer were very good, because the rain did not abate at all when we left the airport. Despite what several Calgary residents told us at the airport, we are sure that the rain will stop soon. We have never had such rain in June. Never. We wondered if this vacation would turn into complete shit. On the way to the hotel, Veronica and I had a few lively conversations when we weren't worried about the weather. However, I noticed that on the way she occasionally imperceptibly touched her crotch or boobs. One day, when she found out that I had caught her, she blushed and, without a trace of levity in her voice, said, "My libido has skyrocketed over the past month, so Jack better take his vitamins, because I'm going to rape him when he arrives." Despite the fact that I didn't ask any clarifying questions and considered it normal, she continued, "My obstetrician-gynecologist says that about 5% of pregnant women have an increased libido, like mine, and this is better than 40% who have it significantly reduced or not at all." We eventually got to the hotel without much incident and checked in. It was a small, well-equipped establishment with very pleasant staff. Veronica and I were satisfied with our 2-room apartment. Both of our suites had an entrance hall with a sofa that folded into a double bed, a spacious bedroom with a king-size bed, and a large bathroom with a spa bath, accessible from both the bedroom and the hallway. The room she and Jack occupied was at one end of the upper, 3rd, floor, and Marcy and I had a room at the other, and there was only one room between them. The views from both our rooms were amazing. This was all that could be seen through the incessant rain and fog. That evening, the problems became even more serious when we learned that the rain had caused widespread flooding and that the operation of the Calgary airport had been suspended. Jack and Marcy won't arrive the next day, if they arrive at all. I was upset, but Veronica looked unhappy, and at dinner, she was again discreetly rubbing her crotch under the table. In the middle of the night, another unfortunate event occurred. The electricity went out. Although the hotel had a backup generator, its power was only enough for emergency lighting and refrigerators in the kitchen. Fortunately, the hot water was supplied with gas, not electricity, so at least we could take a shower. After Veronica and I had breakfast on a very limited menu, the waiter told us that the usual food delivery service could not cope with the flood yesterday. There seemed to be more bad news. There were several crying children and distraught spouses of employees in the lobby. We learned that the manager's house was literally washed away by water, and the families of 2 employees had to evacuate. Because the hotel was overcrowded, the families had to live in the hotel's common rooms, at least until the flooding stopped, which was unlikely to happen anytime soon, as the rain was still pouring down in buckets. Veronica, always kind and thinking about others, has found a partial solution. She discussed it with me first, and then we talked to the manager. "Mr. Dubuque, since Kevin's wife and mine will not come here, because even if the airport reopens, it is unlikely that they will be able to fly to Banff, Kevin and I will just stay in one of our suites, and you can ask 1 or 2 families of employees to move to another," Veronica sweetly told him, while I was watching her. Mr. Dubuque even burst into tears. After asking 3 or 4 times that we were serious, he hugged us both. That morning, I moved my luggage from my room to Veronica's room, and 2 very grateful families of employees moved into my room. "Do you want a bed in the bedroom or a sofa in the hallway?" asked Veronica. "Do you really think that I will arrange a pregnant woman on the couch?" I chuckled. "Don't you know that I'm a knight?" "I'm sorry, I forgot," Veronica laughed. Lunch and dinner were delicious, but it was clear that the hotel was running out of food supplies. That evening, Veronica got a little angry because she couldn't read some books on her Kindle because she couldn't recharge it, but given the pain of the locals, she just accepted it. We were playing cards in the eerie light of the emergency lights, and I wished we hadn't done it. She kicked my ass. I had a good night's sleep on the couch, even though it wasn't the most comfortable in the world. I heard some strange noises coming from the bedroom, but I just didn't pay attention to them. The morning of the 21st brought even more problems. The hotel was really running out of groceries, and for several days they were not delivered due to flooding. There was a town nearby, separated from Banff by 2 deep rivers, the water of which overflowed over bridges spanning them, in which there was a lot of food, but it was impossible to get it. Except for the Hummer, of course. Both the manager and Veronica tried to dissuade me from going, but I was determined. "Look, if I have to turn back, I'll do it." I wrote down what the manager and all the guests wanted, including what Veronica loved during pregnancy, pickles, peanut butter, and lemons, and hit the road in the incessant rain. "I'll be back in about 6 hours," I told Veronica as we hugged goodbye. The trip was excruciating, but doable. I appreciated the Hummer in a new way. Although I still considered it useless as a passenger vehicle, it was perfect for this trip. I loaded up the Hummer with food, medicine, and something else worth about $10,000, which I paid with my credit card, and returned to the hotel more than 2 hours faster than I expected. I was greeted like a hero when I returned from a business trip in my Hummer loaded with groceries and necessary medical supplies. The hotel manager was happy to write me a check for the total amount, but most of the guests, all except a few misers, wanted to contribute as the management of the hotel was so wonderful. I refused to accept compensation for the products I bought for Veronica and me, including pickles, peanut butter, and lemons, which Veronica liked so much, and an unexpected electromechanical device. My hands were so busy shopping for food that I couldn't even knock on the door of our hotel room. I kicked her a few times to get Veronica's attention, but fearing to damage the door or my leg, and deciding that she probably decided to take a nap, since in fact I was supposed to be back only after an hour and a half, I gave up after several attempts. Finally, I put the things I bought, for cloth bags, opened the door with my room key, went in and put the bags in the hallway, and then looked around for Veronica. I heard low guttural sounds coming from the bedroom, so I looked in there and experienced an erotic shock. Veronica was lying on her back on the bed. The sight of her looking not only into my eyes, but also into my soul with her alluring black eyes on a perfectly beautiful face, when I looked back at her all the time while we were making love. "Well, you finally managed to put a pipe in my tunnel, you bastard. What you've been dreaming about since college. How was it? Have I met your expectations?" She growled rather than said it. "Wow, you have a high opinion of yourself," I chuckled. "And, answering your question, I will say that it so exceeded my expectations that it was in another universe, the existence of which I did not even know," I continued, this time in a serious tone. "The right answer," she snorted. Veronica smiled, kissed me and giggled. "I hope you can keep up. If I had been like this in college, I would have looked after you every day, and today we could be married and hopefully I wouldn't be making love to Jack while married to you." I was going to tell her that our college romance didn't end because she didn't go through with it, but then I thought, what's the point of that? "Do you feel guilty?" I asked, considering her comment about Jack. "And if I felt it, would it help?" "Both or not," she said, answering her own questions. "The next few days will be a preordained interlude that will never happen again. It will always give pleasure and will not cause feelings of guilt." In the end, Veronica and I recovered in the shower. Without even bothering to get dressed, Veronica started eating pickled cucumbers and peanut butter, and I cringed at the very thought of this combination, not to mention watching her consume these foods at the same time. "Just what I need," she smiled in between bites and sent me a passionate thank you kiss. Why do pregnant women have such a strange craving for food? I asked, munching on the energy bars, which were much tastier than usual. Don't ask me. We're just eating, she chuckled. Please give me one of these lemons and an apple, she said, continuing to dip a large pickled cucumber into a jar of peanut butter. After we ate, I went back to the Hummer and picked up an electromechanical surprise for Veronica. Since there was no electricity in the guest rooms, except for emergency lighting, which was not bright enough to read, and there was no electricity to charge the Kindle, Veronica had previously complained that she could not do her second favorite activity, reading. When I brought an LED lamp with a charger to our room, she, still naked, asked, "What is it?" Well, this is a light source that will allow you to read and charge your Kindle and mobile phone, and for me to admire your gorgeous pregnant body. After I turned the knob for 15 minutes, the LEDs, comparable to a 75-watt incandescent lamp, will burn for about 3 hours, I proudly announced. And you can recharge your Kindle and our mobile phones. Wow, you're really going to be served better than you've ever been in your life, Veronica smiled, cupping my crotch, and then gave me another of her passionate kisses with marinade, peanut butter, lemon, and apple. The rain didn't stop until the 22nd, and I still couldn't get to the airport until the 26th due to flooding. Every morning during this time, bouts of guilt forced me to make the decision to stop making love to Veronica. However, the first time that day, when she pressed her body against me, it became a mockery of my determination. Although I have always considered Veronica to be one of the most beautiful women I have ever met, in her current state she was irresistible. From the 22nd to the 26th, Veronica and I made love, did sports at the fitness club, using our manually operated LED power supply for illumination. Veronica was the most passionate, funny, happy, and affectionate girlfriend I've ever met. Perhaps it was only thanks to her that I could make love 4 times a day. It was unheard of for me before. That little combination of rain and flood was phenomenal, Kevin. At least in the bed part, Veronica said, looking at me with her mesmerizing black eyes. Although I will think about it fondly in the future, you do understand that you will never lay a pipe in my tunnel again, she continued. Does this mean that in the future I will be able to eat you? I replied humorously. No, you idiot. No more hugs and kisses, okay? She growled. Got it, I laughed. Then I said seriously, I am eternally grateful for this little flood, as you call it. However, it makes me wonder, what if our college romance would not have come to naught? No more what-ifs, she growled, glaring at me. Marcy and Jack and I have a wonderful life. Have fun. And after kissing me goodbye, she left without even bothering to look back. On the way home, I was a little worried about how I would be able to perform in front of Marcy. After all, of course, she expected me to attack her, or that I would somehow reveal what I was doing. Since we got married, we've never been apart for so long, and everything would have come out if I hadn't been interested in making love. I cheered myself up by thinking about Veronica's gorgeous pregnant body. Due to flight delays, which I regularly reported to Marcy on my cell phone, I didn't get home until 2 a.m. Fortunately, Marcy was already asleep. She's had a hard day. By the next morning, after dreaming all night about using Veronica, I was energized, and if I may say so, I gave Marcy the top 10 love experiences ever. In bliss, Marcy purred. What's gotten into you, Tiger? It was amazing. I've missed you so much, I lied. Today I will treat you like a queen, and in the evening I will give you a massage. Promises, promises, she chuckled. It took about 2 years before I saw Veronica again. She, Jack, and their healthy, happy little daughter Brooke, who looked a lot like Veronica, only without the black eyes, visited us when Marcy was pregnant with our first child. However, things weren't so easy for me when Jack and Veronica moved to our neighborhood about 18 months after that, and Veronica was 5 months pregnant again. This move was a big promotion for Jack, and since Veronica was expecting another child, she was going to become a housewife until both children went to school. At the welcome party we had at home in honor of Jack, Veronica, and Brooke so they could meet our friends, Veronica and I found ourselves alone in the garden. Well, how are you this time with pregnancy? I asked awkwardly. Looking into my soul with her piercing black eyes, Veronica grinned rather than said, Are you asking if my libido has skyrocketed like last time? You want to put another pipe in my tunnel, don't you? Oh, well, no. Ah, I muttered, and my throat tightened and my face undoubtedly turned red. Stop stuttering, she chuckled. Yes, my libido has increased again, and unfortunately, I'm exhausting myself. Jack has a 5-day trip next week, during which I'll be home alone. You might want to replace little Kevin again for this time. End.